Welcome to the Bloons Tower Defense 6 tier list for tier 5 towers. Now before we get into this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to the creator of this tier list on Tier Maker. Um, they did a really good job with the icons or sprites, and here are all the tier 5 towers up to date in Bloons. I will not be ranking the heroes, but the heroes are there. Um, as well as I'm recording this as of January 3rd or 4th, so it's the beginning of 2021. So if you see this video in 3 or 4 years, this list might be outdated. But nonetheless, let's get into the video. So ranking these tier 5 towers, we will have to keep a couple things in mind. I will be ranking these towers based on their price and effectiveness and how good they are overall over the course of every mode, like alternate rounds, chimps, impoppable, races, challenges, and whatnot. Of course, some towers might be completely useless or farms that are unavailable in chimps, but they might be really good in other modes. So we'll be keeping that in mind and keeping in consideration the price versus effectiveness, or else if we're just ranking them on strictly power, then the list would be composed of really the most expensive ones being the best. So with that out of the way, let's just say hi to Quincy here, the best hero in the game, JK. So let's get into the first one. I'll be covering the towers in order of like how they are in game, from primary, military, and so on and so forth. Pretty much the only thing I did do to this tier maker is put the icons in order so it's easier for me. So the first one on this list is the Ultra Juggernaut. The Ultra Juggernaut is the top path tier 5 upgrade for the Dart Monkey. And for prices, I'm in medium sandbox, so it'll be medium prices. Um, so just keep that in mind. I felt like looking at medium prices is probably the best way to look at things, considering the game was meant to be played kind of in medium mode. So anyways, in medium, the Ultra Juggernaut is 15k. Definitely extremely cheap, one of the cheapest tier 5 towers. Where would I put this? So the Ultra Juggernaut. Oh yeah, another thing you want to keep in mind is the build path to the tier 5, right? And I feel like the Ultra Juggernaut has a pretty good build path up towards it. It can on its own hit camel leads if you give it the middle path camel detection. It's really cheap, plus it's a dart monkey. A lot of times you're gonna have a dart monkey in your game. Monkey knowledge is a free dart monkey. In chimps on harder maps, you usually want to drop a couple of dart monkeys to keep yourself alive. So it does have a good build path. It hits camel leads. It does ceramic damage. And you're definitely going to be getting a lot of value for its price, especially on certain maps or certain positions. This tower's positioning and targeting um, does a ton of difference, so it might be difficult to use for some people. Putting it on last in some areas could be really good with its bounces and projectiles. Um, but in a lot of modes, you would honestly prefer to like save up for like 20, 30k for a better tier 5 upgrade than spend the 12k and then maybe be screwed later down the line not being able to afford another tier 5 tower earlier. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it probably in D tier. Keep in mind I might be changing towers around as the list grows. You know, there's a lot of tiers here. But yeah, it's just like you don't necessarily want to get this early game because like early game you should be able to save up for 20, 30K. And buying this just like makes your first actually really strong tier 5 tower harder to get. So that's why I'm putting it in D tier. That's my reasoning. Now the next one is Plasma Monkey Fan Club. That is the middle path Dart Monkey. Um, In-game cost 50K. Relatively expensive on the higher end, definitely. And its build path, I mean, this is one of those upgrades that require like a strategy to revolve around it because it like it buffs like 10 Dartling monkeys. So to actually get value out of it, you need 10 Dartling monkeys in the area. And having 10 Dartling monkeys in the area requires you to like sacrifice part of the map to the Dartling monkeys, and you're probably gonna have to get some alchemists in there. So it is a big sacrifice. The Super Monkey Fan Club, which is the previous upgrade, isn't a very good upgrade. So it's going to be really difficult to save up with this strategy to 50K, especially on harder maps, where it's hard to stick 10 Dartling, not Dartling, 10 Dart Monkeys like together. Um, Pretty hard strategy to pull off, and even if you save up to it, the duration versus cooldown is not fantastic. Your popping power is going to be so garbage when this thing is on cooldown that it's really not worth it. When it's activated, it's pretty strong. Like you can do damage to around 98, 99, but you won't be able to beat 98, 99 just because the duration between cooldown and active is just too much. I have to drop this bad boy in F tier. It's just not good. Like it just has too many glaring weaknesses. So next up, bottom path, Crossbow Master. Crossbow Master is a fantastic tier 5. The build path is amazing. Great for Moab damage. Great range, tier 4. Like, even tier 3 bottom path. Like, the crossbow is just a fantastic build path. It's relatively cheap. Yeah, 25K. Definitely on the cheap side, one of the cheapest towers. It's a primary monkey as well, which really benefits from Top Path Village. Like this thing is ridiculous when you get it. Like you can almost solo with like an alchemist in a village. You can like do so much damage to 98, 99 later rounds on its own for only 25K. It's amazing. It does a lot of Moab damage and pierce. It pierces things like crazy. Positioning, like you don't need really good positioning to have a like to really get a lot of out of it, this tower. But if you position it in a straight line and it gets straight shots off, it's crazy. Not only does it have crazy mob damage, but it has crazy balloon popping power. This thing is all around just a solid tower. I think it's an easy A tier. Leaning toward like it's like top A tier, maybe bottom S tier. I'll have to see if I'll put in S tier. It's definitely ridiculous. Plus, with monkey knowledge, you can get two of them. Of really amazing tower. So moving on. Boomerang Monkey. So the top path is the Glaive Lord. At a whopping 40,000, you get this bad boy. So, how do I feel about him? His top path is really, really great for dealing with 63. He can pretty much deal with 63 on his own. You don't like your whole defense could be Moab defense, and you slap him for balloon popping power, and it should be enough as a fourth tier. His fourth tier is fantastic for group popping power. His fifth tier is 40K, um, which is definitely on the more expensive side of things. And I honestly, as much as he is good, he does struggle versus DDTs. He does struggle in general. He isn't one of those towers that you get him and he's just an insane tower. I often feel like he kind of doesn't feel that great, especially for his price. You can get much better. So for that reason, I'm gonna put him in D tier, maybe C. I do feel like I do think the Ultra Juggernaut is better, so I'll have to put him in D tier. I think he's just too expensive for what he does. Like his fourth tier is just way more value. So moving on, middle path Boomer is permacharge for 35k, so it's cheaper. This thing is pretty nuts, actually. Again, primary monkey, so you're getting value off of top path, monkey villages and whatnot. I think this guy's really great. Um, and the fact that his active becomes permanent, and then he gets an even more powerful active ability, is just amazing. This guy destroys Moabs, destroys Bloons. He kind of destroys everything. I think the Dart Monkey bottom path crossbow is better and cheaper than this guy. He's pretty good, but I'll have to put him in B tier. I might throw him in A tier later on, but if he's A tier, I think he's definitely on the lower end. Probably. We'll see how this tier list goes because there's a lot of towers. But he's definitely really crazy. I just think there's towers that are just better. And the last upgrade for the Boomerang, Moab Domination 60k. Moab Domination is actually pretty good. Its bloom popping power is alright, because you get some nice straight line shots with the Boomerang. But the Moab CC is really crazy. But it's 60k. Um, it's 60k. This thing destroys DDTs. It like freezes them in place. The problem is it doesn't really do much to bad balloons. It doesn't stun bad balloons. So if you're getting this in free play, because 60k is like you're heading into free play or crazy farm impoppable type of style. In free play, you start seeing a lot of bads. And this guy isn't super amazing versus bads, but he's amazing versus all the Moabs inside. I just think, honestly, there's a tower that's better versus Moabs than this, and it's much cheaper. Um, yeah, and he just doesn't for 60k. He's really good versus Moabs, but he doesn't have that bad. Like maybe if he would debuff the bad, he would be really great. I think I'll put him in C tier, maybe D tier. I might put him in like for what he does really great. But for what he does, is it worth the money? Is the question. I think it's pretty good. Throw him in C tier. I think he's a C tier tower, yeah? So let's go into Bomb Shooter. Top path is Balloon Crush, 55k. Now I'm gonna be honest, I rarely use this thing. I've tested it a couple times, and I'm gonna slap this in E tier. Um, I'm gonna have to go through this list a bit quicker because I don't want this list to be an hour long, so I'll keep my descriptions brief. Brief, I mean. So this tower, for its money, it stuns things like crazy. It's great, but much like the previous boomerang, does it really do enough versus bads? And for its price, does it really do enough for its price? I think there's much better towers out there. I don't think it's F tier. It's maybe D tier. But I do think the towers I currently have in D tier are much better. I might have to move things up. We'll see, but it's like not terrible, but I'm not a fan of it. It's good in certain challenges, but that's really about it. Middle path is Moab Eliminator 25,000. So Moab Eliminator is fantastic. Like pretty fantastic. I think B tier. It's a comfortable B tier, honestly. For its price, it's on the cheaper end of tier 5s. It does crazy damage. Its cooldown is pretty short, and its build path is pretty nice. This thing does ridiculous Moab damage, ridiculous bad damage. This thing does damage. Its main weakness is its ability is single target, but it's such a short cooldown, and it does so much damage. Like, for what it does, it's really amazing. And it has crazy range. I think it's definitely a really good tower. And honestly, pretty good in a primary monkey type of strategy. The main issue with this tower is in like there's just most primary monkeys do so much Moab damage anyways that like you're maybe better off going crossbow and boomerang, but it's still really good. Like don't sleep on the Moab Eliminator. Bomb Blitz, bottom path, bomb shooter, 35,000. Um, where do I put this? I think a lot of people might hate me for this, but I'm putting this in E tier. Definitely I'm putting it above its counterpart, but I don't use it that often, and mainly because I think recursive cluster is just it's just better. Like it's just good. Like recursive cluster is just really good, and I don't think the big price difference really makes up for it. Plus, its ability kind of can be not great in impoppable and chimps. So yeah, I think just its fourth tier is just more value, honestly. It's a fine tower, but I don't see myself going for it often. So moving on, we have Tack Shooter. Top path is Infernal Ring for 50,000. More expensive side, um, but it's definitely worth the price, I would say. Does crazy damage to pretty much all balloon types, and like the damage is fast. You get this in a nice position on a map, in like a circle or something, and it could do crazy stuff. Its fireball is great. It's not the most broken thing, honestly, for its price. Like it's less effective than Crossbow Master, straight up, and it's more expensive. It's pretty good. You can buff it up, and it does a lot of damage. And it honestly, its price, like it does what it does. Honestly, its price isn't that crazy. You can save up for it relatively easy if you're farming, and even in chimps, you can save up for this. Top of C tier, I would put it. Yeah, top of C tier. Super Maelstrom. I don't use this tower often, but I'm pretty comfortable putting this in B tier. Maybe even A tier. Maybe above Moabilum. Like honestly, for 15,000, it's so cheap, and you get this like in a nice position to where your active ability like hits a lot of things, and you just shred stuff. Like it's just a really solid tower. Maybe I put it above. Yeah, maybe I put it here because this thing is great getting it mid to late game. Like after you get your first tier 5 like mid-tier tower example in chimps, you can get a Maelstrom afterwards, and like it's just way better than Juggernaut, I think. Just a really great ability, amazing in races, so I think it's a really solid tower. Tax Zone, 24,000. Tax Zone, A tier. On the cheaper end of towers, crazy Moab damage, decent balloon popping power, crazy range. You buff this with an alchemist, with a monkey village, and you're going places. This does a lot of Moab damage. It won't be a tower that you can just slap on and have it carry you solo, but it does a lot of work. So I think it's definitely an A tier tower for its price. I think it's fantastic. So moving on, Ice Monkey, Super Brittle. In-game cost 30,000. Super Brittle, A tier. I think it's better than Tax Zone. Its build up is its build path is pretty nice. And yeah, Super Brittle is just fantastic. Really good against bads. You get a lot of value off like when this guy hits bads, and even just like really tanky Moabs and stuff. This guy is really good. it debuffs and makes all your towers do so much more damage to the stuff it hits. So you want this guy in the front, and he's just fantastic. Like, he's one of my favorite towers. He's a great support tower. Really great late game support tower, and not too expensive for a tier 5 support tower. Next up is Absolute Zero, 26,000. Absolute Zero has a nice ability. Um, its ability as well to like allow land towers to go on water. It's kind of cute, kind of gimmicky. It's all right. Um, its main ability is okay. Its balloon popping power is okay, but for like a end game support tower, I don't really see it being better than a lot of other options. I'm gonna slap it in E tier. Some people might hate me for that, but I think it's the worst ice upgrade. I just do. Next one is Icicle Impale. Probably the least popular of the three. It's 30,000. But I do like this guy. And I like him so much that I'm putting him in C tier. I think he's a great tower. Really good support tower and pretty good popping power. Being able to hit Moabs is fantastic. He's not the most broken thing in the world. He's not particularly insane as a support tower. He's kind of an in-between support slash damage tower. Um, so he's a jack of all trades but a master of none kind of thing. But he's still pretty good. Like, he's pretty solid at what he does, and he's not super expensive. So next up is Glue Gunner. So top half is the Bloon Silver for 22,000 in-game cost. This guy is pretty nutty. Think he goes in B tier. His fourth tier upgrade is fantastic at 63, fantastic versus ceramics, fantastic versus group balloons. His tier 5 is like pretty nice versus like Moabs as well, kind of slow at popping them though. He has a lot of popping power. I think he's fantastic. He's cheap. That's a really fantastic thing he has going for him. He's very cheap. And I think he's an extremely solid tower. I don't think he's good enough to be A tier. I don't think he's good enough to be S tier. But he's really good. I think he's better than Moab Elam. I think he's on par, honestly, with I definitely go for him more than this super boomerang guy. But I think the boomerang guy is probably better. Next upgrade, Glue Storm. 15,000 in-game cost. Really cheap tier 5 tower. My favorite glue gunner upgrade. Looks sick. And yeah, A tier, maybe B tier. Maybe A tier is a bit biased. I think maybe because keep in mind, glued balloons take extra damage, and his ability like lasts so long. So he's kind of like the ice tower, top path ice tower in that regards. Pretty good, pretty good support tower and really cheap. So honestly, yeah, I do think he's a pretty good A tier tower, honestly. Really underrated support tower in my opinion. And Super Glue, 35,000 in-game cost, probably the most popular glue gunner upgrade. I'll have to put this at the top end of B tier. And yes, I'm putting him under Glue Storm, but 35,000, not super expensive, slightly on the expensive end for support towers, but a pretty good endgame support tower nonetheless. Unfortunately, he doesn't really do much to bad balloons, but he stun locks Moabs like crazy, like real crazy, and like he's better in my opinion than Bottom Path Boomerang. Fantastic tower. I might put him in A tier later on. We'll see. Next up is the Sniper Monkey. Cripple Moab is its top half upgrade for 40,000. And it kind of has a similar effect to middle path glue, top path ice, where it makes Moabs do take extra damage from other people. Only Moabs, but it's still great. It's pretty expensive, but it stuns Moabs with shrapnel now. It has AoE stun, and it's making Moabs take extra damage. Like, what's not to love? This thing does damage to bads. This thing is beautiful. Um, do I think it's an A tier tower? I think it's too expensive, in my opinion, to be A tier, but it's definitely fantastic. Definitely putting it up in top of B tier. Yeah, I think this is a nice place for it. So yeah, this is our first military monkey. We're done with primary. Next is elite sniper for 13,000. Um, oof. I it depends what mode you're talking about. Now this is when talking about modes is starts to come into play. Elite sniper is insane in like impoppable or hard, where you can farm, where you can get money. In chimps, he drops down, in my opinion, a lot because his active ability doesn't make money, but his tier 5 upgrade makes so much money that he outfarms a lot of farms. He outfarms Benjamin hard later on. He's so crazy. On top of the fact that he has pretty decent popping power, elite targeting prio to all snipers, buffing other snipers. You know, he can hit camel leads, right? If you go top path, like you can hit like you have a really early camel lead popping tower building up to this. I think he's fantastic. But I'm gonna have to put him in C tier. Probably upper end of C tier. Um, if we're talking about like his money making ability, he's definitely top tier, but he definitely loses a lot of his oomph in chimps, I think. So he's going into C tier. He's probably a B tier tower if we're talking about if we include his money making. He makes so much money. Like actually a lot. Next upgrade is Elite Defender. 14,000. Another extremely cheap tower. His build-up path is fantastic. I love going shrapnel with him with an alchemist, so he can hit leads with alchemist, and he does crazy AoE damage. His Moab damage is fine, but his balloon damage is crazy. He attacks like crazy. He's either a C or a B tier tower. I used to think he was a god tier tower, but I don't think he's that insane. I'll throw him in bottom of B tier. Eh, do I? I might change this. Bottom of B tier, maybe top end of C tier. Yeah, that's how I feel. Next up, Monkey Sub. Energizer is the top half for 32,000 in game. This tower, this tower is D tier, bottom of D tier, maybe top of bottom of D tier. If you're going for, if you have a map with water in it, I mean, this tower is useless without water. If you have a map with water in it and you're going for free play, cool. I think its experience boost heroes isn't that great because it's pretty expensive and not that great. You really don't want to be getting this early. Like, but its cooldown reduction to tower abilities is fantastic for free play. If you're going for a water-based or ability-based build for free play, I think it does have its use in free play, which is the only reason I'm putting it in D tier. Because aside from free play, I think this tower is like F tier. Its build up is great. Honestly, its fourth tier is fantastic. Even its third tier top path. But Energizer, it ain't it, bro. Monkey sub, middle path, preemptive strike. 32,000 as well. I don't use this tower often, I'll be real. This tower sees usually more play in like challenge type of games, in my opinion. It's relatively expensive for what it does. I think its fourth tier is just better for its price. This does do damage to bads without a doubt, but I think you can just get a better overall tower for the price. Um, for that reason, I'm putting it in D tier. Honestly, this Energizer, I mean, Energizer is really good in free play, but yeah, this is probably more useful. But I'm not a fan of it. I know a lot of people will hate me because this tower is pretty well loved, I feel, but in my opinion, I think it's kind of overrated. Yeah. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Kylie, or whatever, bottom path boomerang, bottom of D tier. I'm actually looking at it, bottom of D tier, actually. Sub commander, bottom path, 25,000. What do I think about this tower? A tier. I think it's A tier, bottom of A tier. It requires a strategy revolving around it. You know, to actually get value off of it, you need other subs. You need good water areas on your, well, you need water on your map. And you need other subs. You need a sub strategy. Subs are really strong. And the sub strategy is fantastic. It's definitely A tier. But honestly, I don't even think this tower is necessary for subs. Like, subs are just good on their own. I'll definitely put in A tier. I don't think it's an S tier tower like a lot of people would think. I'm pretty happy. I think these other towers are just have more use overall that are ahead of it. Next up is the Monkey Buccaneer top path carrier flagship. In-game cost 25,000. Um, oof. This tower, this honestly, I don't go for this tower too often. I don't go for this tower too often. But I think it's an S tier tower. This might surprise people, but it's relatively cheap. Its fourth tier is amazing. Like, its fourth tier is nuts. It can solo so much. This thing hits camos, it hits sleds, like you can buff this thing with Alchemist, Monkey Village. Like, if you want, this thing hits its planes hit everything on the map, global range. Its fourth tier is amazing, its fifth tier is relatively cheap and you can easily save up for it. And it does so much. Like, I don't know, it does so much. On top of buffing other water towers, it's just a bonus. On top of allowing you to put stuff on top of it, it gives snipers like all line of sight. Like in maps where it might be difficult to place a sniper, you can place it on top of this thing. You can place an alchemist on top of it. Place a crossbow master on top of it. Like this thing is amazing. Like its popping power is ridiculous on top of all the other bonuses it gives. Needless to say that this tower is also nuts in free play, giving you extra space to place towers. Um, But aside from being nuts and free play and gimmicky, it just has too good popping power. Like, I think it's an S tier tower. You can definitely put this in A tier, but I think it's S tier. I think it trumps these towers. I think it does. When I go for it, I'm always satisfied. Middle path is Pirate Lord, 21,000. Pirate Lord, easy top of B tier, I think, right? Is it? I mean, it makes pretty good money off of pulling Moabs. Although, keep in mind that when you're pulling them, you're compensating, like the money you make is compensating for like the money you're losing. I think it's like a Benjamin type of thing where Benjamin like makes you lose money on some of his like debuff effects on balloons, but compensates by making more money. So, I mean, it's not the most ridiculous money-making tower, but like it pulls a lot of Moabs. Its cooldown is super short at tier 5. And its tier 4 upgrade is great for round 40, pretty cheap. Easy round 40 for alternate rounds. You know, just suck that fortified Moab. I think it's a pretty good tower. Actually, I don't think it's an easy B tier. I love this tower. I used to spam it. I do think it's a B tier. I do think it's a B tier. Maybe middle B tier, somewhere there, yeah. Trade Empire, 23,000. This is very, very much money making, useless in chimps, and it revolves around having a bunch of merchantmen, huge money making strategies, kind of like a farm spam, but with some popping power. It's alright. It's alright. Bottom D tier. The strategy makes money. It's okay. It's not amazing, honestly. Monkey Ace, top path Sky Shredder, 36,000. So, especially if you have the item that makes all your aces shoot bones that you buy with trophies, this thing will literally make your screen unlookable. Like, it'll make you blind. But aside from that, think B tier. I think it falls around here in B tier. Um, I mean, its build up is great. You know, the ability of the monkey is to deal damage to Moabs, and I mean, this is a major upgrade. It shoots like crazy, and it kind of makes up for its weakness for a lot of misses. It pops like crazy. I think it's a fantastic tower. You know what? Middle priced, solid. Sarbamba, middle path, 31,500. I don't use this tower often, but I'm comfortable putting this at bottom of A tier. This thing solos 98 and 99. Like, pretty good for its price. Build path is fine. I mean, this thing is meh versus versus bads, meh. But it like solos 98, 99, and it does terrible balloon popping power, but its ability is really nuts. Flying Fortress, 94,500. Expensive end. So, this thing, needless to say, is pretty garbage in easy mode because you're not going to be buying this before round 40. You know, this is really an unpoppable type of tower. You're not affording this in chimps. I mean, I'd rate this low in chimps, you know. This is like a free play or like hard farming unpoppable tower. I mean, it's ridiculous for its price and what it does. I'll put it in C tier. Just because it's so expensive. It's strong, but it's expensive. Yeah, bottom of C tier. But it's a pretty good tower, honestly. Heli Pilot, top path of Apache Prime, 45,000. Bottom of B tier. Reasoning, and a lot of people might be upset because honestly, this tower is really good. Main reasoning is a lot of maps and a lot of difficult maps. This helicopters are bad. Helicopters are such a good unit, but in some maps with multiple paths, they're bad. Like they keep running back and forth, and it's too much. This tower is nuts in one lane maps, but not multi-lane maps. It's on the slight expensive end. It's mid-range end. It's a mid-range end. You can find better, honestly, for its price, and a lot of these other towers are just way more effective over more maps, more difficulties, honestly. Special Preparations, 30,000. E tier. E tier. Downdraft is nice, but honestly, really expensive. It's a cool tower, bottom of E tier. Honestly, not that fantastic. Kamachi Commander, 35,000. Think it's better. This one is the one that has this is a Moab shove. Pretty nice. Pretty expensive for what it does. I don't think it makes up for its price. I think it's bottom of E tier. Mortars. Not a fan of mortars, if I'm going to be honest. The biggest one, 28,000. This thing's been nerfed. I think this thing falls off like crazy. I very dislike its Moab popping power, and the further you go on, the shittier I think this tower becomes. You don't require much micro because of its range. Its buildup is nice, but I think this is it's a decent mid game tower. There's better for the price, and it falls off. Top end of D tier. A lot of people are gonna hate me for that, but yeah. Pop and Awe. I think it's very meh. Its ability is very nice. Its price was 30,000. Its ability is nice, but there's better support towers. I mean, this is like a support pop tower. I think it's better than these helicopter upgrades. I'm putting it in E tier. Blue Incineration, 45,000, most expensive, but actually the best mortar upgrade. Top end of B tier. Yep. Uh, Being able to defortify stuff is crazy. This thing is crazy late game. Crazy in free play. This tower is crazy. I don't think it's better than the towers above it. I think the towers above it are cheaper and usually more effective. But definitely a freaking solid support tower, honestly. Dartling Gunner, top path, Ray of Doom, 110,000. So needless to say, this is not a Chimps tower. This is more of an unpoppable, free play, farming type of tower. This is my most hated path. Honestly, I don't like this path. This path requires more micro, except tier 5 doesn't require much micro. And for its price, underwhelming, honestly. I don't think it's a viable price for what this tower does. I don't like its path. I don't like its face. Bottom of E tier. The Mad. The Mad. 65,000. So its build path is amazing. I love its third tier. I love its fourth tier middle path. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. But middle of D tier, honestly. For its price, I mean, its strength is it's really good at what it does. Really good at Moab popping, Terrorbob balloon popping. For its price in most modes, you might struggle with balloon popping power if you're buying this. But if you're farming like crazy, this thing can get you far in free play. It's good at what it does, but I think it's for its price, it has too many weaknesses. I love its build path though, but yeah, I'd rather be spamming its tier 4 upgrade, you know? Like I'd just rather be have like multiple tier 4s of this rather than a tier 5. Bloon Exclusion Zone, 60,000 bottom path. I love this one. I love it. I just love it. I really like it. You know, you have to alchemist this, you have to monkey village this. I think it's better than the Mad. No. No, it's worse than the Mad. But I like it better. I think it's slightly worse than the Mad. It's still a fantastic expensive tower, but it's fantastically expensive. Archmage, top path of Wizard Monkey, 32,000. Top of A tier. I think this thing is crazy. I think the Crossbow Master is just better than the Archmage and cheaper, which is why I'm putting it lower. But the Archmage does really has okay balloon popping power, really good Moab popping power, really good range. I like it. It's the first Magic Monkey on the list. I think it's solid. I think it's a solid tower. Middle path is Wizard Lord Phoenix, 60,000, the most expensive upgrade from the Wizard. I love Wall of Fire Tier 2. I love the Tier 3 upgrade. Its Tier 4 upgrade is not that great, and its Tier 5 upgrade is really expensive. And its Tier 5 upgrade is honestly not that good for its price. But it it does have useful implications when it comes to two-tower chimps on logs. Um, but I think it's pretty weak for its price. I think I'm down. Like, it's still a ridiculously good tower, but I don't think it's as good as most people think. Um, I think it belongs here in B tier. Prince of Darkness, bottom path, $24,000. S tier. Top of S tier. Not much to say. This thing got buffed. This thing's ridiculous. It's one of, if not the best, mid-game. Aside from probably one other tower, it's probably the best mid-game tower. It's 25,000. 24,000, my bad, on medium. Uh, you get this mid-game and this thing carries you so far. It is inconsistent with it. It can get scary, with its graveyard. If it's on well, it's on cooldown, but it doesn't have a big graveyard. You'll need another tower to pop to really be safe, but this thing is ridiculous, honestly. The Wizard is one of the best towers, right? It has a S tier, an A tier, and a B tier tower. In my eyes, it's a really good tower. Super Monkey, top path, True Sun God. True Sun God, bottom of B tier. I don't even think it's the most ridiculous um free play tower. Actually, I'm putting this in C tier. I don't even think it's the most ridiculous free play tower. It's insanely expensive, requires so much setup and sacrifices. This is only useful in free play or like crazy challenges, obviously. It's insanely powerful, but for the money, it's not getting you that juice, and it's only viable in free play. So I'm putting it in C tier. The anti-balloon 90,000. It's build path. Oh, going back to True Sun God, Sun Avatar is probably in my opinion, the best mid game tower. It's relatively cheap. It's a nice mid game price, and it does so much damage. And I think Sun Temple and True Sun God just it's free play but really expensive. Sun Avatar is amazing mid game. It'll carry you really far. That and Necromancer, but I mean tier 5 bottom path Wizard are the two best. So now middle path, the anti-blue 90,000. Middle path is amazing. I like its ability. I'm putting it in C, but above True Sun God. I think this path is better. Um, Legend of Night 240,000. Build path is amazing. Gotta love Dark Champion, gotta love Dark Knight. Legend of the Night. Middle of B tier. It's an impoppable only. I mean, no, not impoppable. It's a free play only tower, pretty much, or a hard farming tower. Um, yeah, I'm gonna say this often. It's a hard farming free play tower. I'm not gonna put any. I don't think I'm gonna put any super expensive towers super high up, just because they're only really good in conditional modes, and for the most part, their value is not justified by their price. I definitely think, though, this one is probably one of the better, if not the best, expensive, like ridiculously expensive towers. Going to the Ninja Monkey, Grandmaster top path 35,000. I should probably speed this up. I'm recording for a while. Um, D tier. Um, I think the Ninja is a fantastic tower, fantastic early game tower. It'll carry you. Great magic. Monkey tower. The issue is its tier 5 is slightly more expensive than most mid-game tier 5s that you want to get, and it's not that good. You'd much rather just have a Bloon Jitsu or, just go 2 points in top path and then go for a Bloon Sabotage as a later game support tower. I think doing that route is a million times better than going Grandmaster. You could go Grandmaster, Shinobi combo. I don't think it's that good. And it's pretty hard to get off on a lot of maps because it requires a lot of Shinobis to pull off to actually get value. And in certain maps, it's kind of hard to crowd areas. So yeah. Bottom pass, no, middle pass. Grand Saboteur 22,000. Bottom of E tier. Like, honestly, Bloon Sabotage is better. This is a pretty end game support tower. I think there's way better. Why would you ever get this? Its tier 4 upgrade is good enough. Not a fan. Master Bomber tier 5, 40,000. Bottom of E tier. It does mob damage. Nice. Bottom of E tier. Not impressed by tier 5 Ninja Monkey. Say, let's just say, but don't get the wrong idea. Tier 5 ninjas are bad, but it's a solid tower, just not its tier 5s. Permabrew, top path alchemist, 60,000 S tier. So this is probably the best hard farming free play type of towers. I mean, this is S tier. Like 60,000 still relatively affordable. It's not like a 500,000 Sun Temple type of thing. And it's just by far insane, right? Yeah, I think, yeah, it's better than, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's perma-brew, what is there to say? Middle path, 45,000, total transformation. F tier, similar to this little monkey plasma boy. Garbage. It requires a bunch of other towers to play around it. Honestly, you're just debuffing your, like, it's just bad. The downtime on this is not good. You're gonna have 0 popping power. It's ridiculously expensive for no reason. The Cookie Monster tier 4 is way better. Unstable Concoction tier 3 is like why would you ever go for a total transformation other than the memes, right? It's kind of bad. Bottom path, Balloon Master Alchemist. Top of A tier. This thing is ridiculous. It's like almost S tier, but it just has too many weaknesses that I can't, right? This thing doesn't touch bads. Major weakness. It it's kind of slow at attacking and using what it does, turning Moabs into red balloons. It's kind of slow, so you can get overwhelmed 98, 99. You do need support towers like blues or something to slow things down so you can, you know, one tap Moabs. This thing pops like crazy. I mean, it steals pops like crazy. Just one taps Moabs and stuff. Makes you some income. Really, really god tier tower. It's on the more expensive side of things, but yeah, it's pretty god tier. It just has, has no balloon popping power and it doesn't touch bads, and it's relatively slow, but it just one taps Moabs. It is, it's crazy. It's pretty crazy, and it looks cool. The Druid Superstorm 90,000. Uh, I don't go for this often. I don't. Bottom of C tier, pretty good, but actually no, nah. Bottom of E tier. Actually, bottom of E tier. I'm looking at the towers ahead of it. For 90,000, you could just get like a way better end game tower. Yeah, that's it. That's all. Ball of Lightning, great versus 63 and stuff like that, but not Superstorm. Spear of the Force, middle path, 35,000. I'm comfortable putting this here. Middle of D. I think if it's pretty nice. Infinite Piers, hits the whole track, pretty nice. But not particularly fantastic. Bottom path, Avatar of Wrath, 45,000. S tier. S tier tower, people might disagree. I don't care. It's on the it's on the more expensive side, but it's like a middle price. 45,000, it's a middle price payment. And it does it does require a druid strategy around it to make it worthwhile. But the druid spam with Oben is so strong. Not only that, but unlike the Plasma Monkey example or the Shinobi strategy, you only need like 5 or 6 well-placed druids to get the maximum value out of it. This is more quality over quantity. Way easier to find areas to put 5 or 6 well-placed druids with a nice village and a couple alchemists than it is to spam 10 to 20 shinobis, dart monkeys, right? You might struggle with placements on harder maps, but you can still get decent druid buffs with it. And you don't need Oben, you could have Gwendolyn with this strategy. But it's a great strategy, and this thing is ridiculous when you can save up for it. And you can save up for it in most maps, most modes, easily. Off of only your druids. Or maybe getting a mid-tier, like, mid-tier Necro, you know, bottom path tier 5 mage, or third tier top path super monkey that can carry you mid game, and then you get this guy. Pretty crazy. Easy S tier for me. Banana farm, top path, banana central. 100,000. 100,000. Bottom of C tier, really expensive, makes good money. Obviously, you're only getting this when you're hard farming in a poppable or 100 rounds free play. Makes good money, but I think it's the worst tier 5 banana farm. A lot of people say it's the best. I think it's the worst. As the best build path, right? Banana plantation is the most profitable farm, but middle path 100,000, monkeynomics. Bottom of B tier, I think this is the best tier 5. The worst build path in my opinion, but this thing makes ridiculous money. Its active ability is nuts, like it's crazy. Monkey Wall Street, I like this. 60,000. It's uh, it's cheaper. It's the cheapest one. I like the build path. It's giving you health. It auto collects. It synergizes with Merchantman, and it makes a lot of money for its price. I honestly really like this. I think it gets a lot of hate. I really love this farm. It's fantastic. But needless to say, all tier 5 farms are really hard farm end game only viable, and they only make money. They don't do anything else. So that's why they're not super high on the list. I have to take them down a notch, voice crack. Supermines, top path, 162,500. Pretty weak. Pretty weak for its price. Really expensive. I think it goes there. Carpet of Spikes, 42,000, middle path. I think it's here. It's actually really good. I think it's really good. It's medium priced, and it does damage. I think it's solid. A lot of better towers out there for its price, but I think it's fine. Permaspike, 30,000. What is there to say about Permaspike? Permaspike is pretty infamous for what it does. Its build path is hot garbage, but when you get that 30k, whew, you're balling, right? I think A tier here. I think these, yeah, I like this. I like this. Yeah. Let's move it up, speed it up a bit. Monkey Village, primary expertise, 25,000. Hmm. I think it goes here in B tier. Definitely on the higher end of B tier or middle end. Um, for primary monkey strategy, this thing is amazing. Although its 4 tiers before it are, I think, just better. You're spending a lot of money for this extra primary buff, but you're getting an extra primary buff. Plus you're getting a ballistic, which is not that bad, and it's global. So it's pretty good if you're going for a crossbow master type of, primary strategy. I think it's really solid. And its build path is really, really good for primary. And jungle drums is good, right? Middle path homeland defense, 40,000. I go for homeland defense less often than the ballistic, but I will admit homeland defense overall is better. Monkey intelligence, its path is really nice. Call to arms is really nice. And homeland, very nice. Pretty expensive, but I think its active ability is really beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye. Bottom path, Monkeyopolis. I think Monkey Business and Commerce, the discounts are nice. Monkey Town, really good when you're farming. The free Dart Monkey thing, it's very gimmicky and useless. I think its build path is quite lackluster. Usually a 002 is where you want to end off. If you're crazy farming and poppable, this is fine, but I find myself rarely using this. It's definitely good at what it does, so I have to put it above these things. I think it's near the end of E tier. Engineer, Sentry Paragon, 32,000. Out of spite, F. And it's actually the worst F tier tower. Terrible tower for its price. It's not that terrible, but it's pretty terrible. Its build path is terrible. It's tier 1, 2, 3, 4 is god awful. Alchemist doesn't do squat to this thing. Its towers clog the screen. It's garbage. Sentry Paragon is way too expensive from tier 4 to tier 5. Garbage tower. Out of spite. F tier. Ultra Boost. Middle path 120,000. Where do I put this bad boy, yeah? Bottom of A tier. I mean, it's extremely expensive. This is free play stacking. Like, not only is it expensive, it also takes time to stack. So you're really getting value only super late with this, but the value you're getting is really well worth its money. Yep, and its path is really amazing. Overclock is fantastic. Despite the nerf, Overclock is still god tier. Bottom path XXXL Trap. In-game cost 60,000. Where do I put this guy? Here. I think D tier, top end, makes great money. You know, uh, does compensate for the money it's also stealing, like other towers, like I was talking about, like Oben as well. But it is really good. It is really good. It's expensive, but it swallows things. The main weakness with it is it always places the trap in the same area and has a little bit of downtime. So it's not gonna be a solo carry tower because balloons are gonna be getting past this thing 100%. But it swallows things. And hot dog, that was actually the last The last tower. Wow. Um, okay, cool. So let's look at this list. Do I want to reorganize anything? Let's see. I think graph-wise, this list looks pretty nice. It looks like a parabola where there's not a lot of things in S, then there's a bit more things in A, then there's a lot of things in B, C, and D, like middle area. There's a lot of E and a little bit of F. You know, it kind of has like that curve. Do I want to change anything? I think I'm happy with my F tier. Okay, so this is the final list. I actually made no changes, but I double checked to just be doubly sure on this tier list. So guys, thank you all for watching. If you want to see me do more tier lists, let me know. Let me know if there's anything in this list that you really disagree about in the comments, and give me your reasoning why. I think I valued most, if not all, aspects of each tower based on price, effectiveness, where they would be most useful, around what stage of the game you would get them, etc. So yeah, here's the list. And yeah, I would love to do more tier lists, especially with balloons. And yeah, anyways, have a nice day and keep popping balloons.